one of the key things about the brain is that it's not just organized in terms of topography or form, it's also organized in terms of its temporal dynamics. And so neurons can actually fire in a whole range of different frequency ranges, and they do. And here's an example of, and sometimes populations will fire at different times from one another, but often they're firing together synchronously. So here's an example of a little local circuit that's kind of firing more randomly. And here is a network that's at work. The neurons are firing together, and in fact, they're getting inputs, and then the timing of their firing is being regulated by those little interneurons that I showed you. So at the local circuit level, there's a tremendous amount of organization, a balance between excitation and inhibition, and these circuits are firing in a coherent way according to the particular demands for information processing that are present in the brain. In addition to all this organization at the cellular and local level, the brain has to organize itself also at what we call the distributed network level. So when someone is a number of years ago, Dr. Diceroth figured out that you could genetically modify animals. You could put what are called channel rhodopsins, which are ion channels that are responsive to specific frequencies of light. And through your genetic engineering tools, you can label particular groups of neurons in the brain, either in one part of the brain or a population. You can label the interneurons, the inhibitory cells, or the excitatory cells. And then you can put a little laser in there, and you can turn a little fiber optic, I should say, and you can turn the light on and off, and you can control the activity of those neurons. You actually control the flow of ions in and out of those neurons, and you can make them fire, you can make them stop firing, you can make them fire at a certain frequency. And again, it's now possible to both record from and stimulate actual neurons in very specific parts of the brain, and that's allowing us to learn remarkable things. You can actually train an animal if you put if you put the channel rhodopsin in the dopamine areas of the brain, the reward areas of the brain. You can actually teach an animal to do a task or to learn a maze in the way that Dr. Crowley would need to use chocolate chips for. You can just do it with light. So, an amazing tool.
Significant than that is the fact that visual subliminals in a single frame of a movie or spliced between words, as we saw in the 40s, 50s, and 60s, has become a refined scientific targeting technique where they have a specific frequency and a specific audience in mind. They can layer signals underneath the visual and audio stuff that you watch on TV or in movies.
This guy, Hal Becker, by the way, founded a business out of Louisiana called the Behavioral Engineering Center. So just think for a second about what that means. Without trying to make this long video even longer, Becker has co-authored several papers and used to work directly with a neurosurgeon named Dr. Robert G. Heath. Heath, in the 40s, was researching ergot with the Walter Reed Army Institute of Research, and by the 50s, he was doing psychosurgery and the implantation of electrodes to stimulate certain areas of a person's brain and control their moods and behavior using radio frequency. Was definitely on the record an MK Ultra doctor. You know, a lot of those records were destroyed. There's not a way to prove everybody's involvement, but he's the whole time that Dr. Heath and his team, the whole team, by the way, was cleared for top secret clearance with the military and working with this MK Ultra stuff. He was also working with this guy Becker, so it stands to reason Becker was also part of it.
Well, what you have is a spy project by the CIA and others that was never fully declassified. We only have a breadcrumb trail, and yet all the pieces link back to this chain of doctors who were involved in mind control research at universities, and it only makes sense that the CIA would be behind deploying this signal if it is real, and if they've got doctors on the payroll who are making great strides in making this technology a reality and marketing it to their own clients, that's pretty significant.
I'm just saying.
Well, what about all of the alien abductions?
They're not abductions. They're the results of a tremendously successful and very sophisticated mind control operation, all of which has been in development. Well, they started working on those kinds of things since before World War II, but they have perfected them. On my website, I have a patent of a machine that can read your brain waves, can recombine them in a computer and send them back to you and make you think things happened that never happened. I mean, you can't get a patent for something like that unless it really works. You have to prove it to the patent office. It works. A patent was issued. And this is just one of the things that snuck by them that hasn't, because when people invent things like this, they're sucked up by the government immediately, and then they're put behind the veil of national security and classified, and then nobody knows about them. But every once in a while, something sneaks by them. And when you do these searches in the patent office and the trademark office and in the copyright office, you come up with some real gems once in a while, and that was one. Also, the congressional investigations into the intelligence community has revealed the existence of these programs, and there's no secret about it. It's documented. Project Artichoke, Project MK Ultra, MK Naomi. I could go on and on and on all day long. And if you had the time in your movie, we could lay out all the documentation, which is official government documentation, and prove beyond any shadow of a doubt that it's true. But that's what it is. It's not extraterrestrials coming down. The human body cannot pass through walls and roofs, or through windows that are closed. This is all the product of the imagination. And